Hi, I want to take a moment to just go over a couple of things that studying this topic taught me in 2025. Like, for instance, the first one is basically life happened. And yeah, it's just, I've been busy. I expected to be a lot further along than I am right now, but it is what it is. Yeah. And I think thinking back to 2024 when I was looking at in 2025 and what I saw the project was going to be, I was going to be perhaps 6, 7 episodes in. I would have read a ton more books. I would have interviewed a lot more people for the main podcast and worked through my outline for the series as I envisioned. But it's been a year, it's been a tough year personally. Also, just a lot was happening, and but also a year of learning and growing. And I'm in a much better place to move forward with the project than ever before. So, how did I approach the work? Just looking back 2025. I took all the experience coming from being an old guy and love, life, everything I've done professionally. And this is how I approached the whole project in its entirety, not only 2025. And the one thing personally appreciate is having parameters. And so from early on, I knew that to avoid driving myself crazy, going down a rabbit hole, that I did not yet appreciate could be so deep. I wanted to set the parameters for what I would cover and how I wanted to cover it. I knew from my initial research that the topic I wanted to talk about, African masculinities, was complex and could not just be covered by one person authoritatively. No, no way. And so my aim was to first and foremost contribute to the discourse, but also ground my conclusions, discoveries, and ultimately my opinion in detailed research, what has been done before, studied before, and what I would do. I wanted to sort of overlay my life experiences as this was the catalyst for this project. And I felt that that was important to me personally, also as a growth component, if you want to look at that. And lastly, I wanted to focus my time and efforts on thematic areas that I had direct life experiences or people close to me had that experience because and this is looking at friends, acquaintances, family, people I've met in professional settings, and hence we have an idea of limiting the main episodes to 24 episodes for the entire podcast, covering different thematic areas that I felt would provide a broad enough spectrum to both satisfy specifically my journey and could provide meaningful additions to the wider discourse on African masculinity as a whole. And in the end, I still want to do those 24 episodes because I feel they are really concrete for me. But they're used through the other components of the podcast, I actually would cover a lot more. So, 2025, what I actually did. I started the year by reading. I read a lot. I read a lot. I read a lot more than I would have thought would be necessary, but the more I read, the more I felt I needed to find more, be it text, journals, books, notes, blogs. I also said, which are not easily accessible, but I'll cover that in a bit. I set up my website and the corresponding social media handles across Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and yeah, I started setting up my internal processes, getting gear, structuring the podcast, and now I wanted to shape it over extended lifespan. And I reached out to as many people as I know. Others I don't know, just cold messages, cold emails, asking to speak with them. And this is how I came to the project's main components, which you've got the main podcast, 24 episodes, and then you've got the 5 question components, which is your sort of man on the street interviews, which surprisingly in my mind I pictured them to be super short, maybe under 10-20 minutes, but I've had some that have lasted for hours, and I feel that they're super interesting looking at. So I'll just keep them. I'm not gonna be an editor and cut them. No, I'll keep them in the entirety of their length because I think there is value in that. And the third form is the long form conversations with close friends, acquaintances, and hopefully people I'll meet along the way. And finally, the writings, which are spread across Substack, the website, and Reddit. I spend more time looking at the different tools for social media that could help in the production of the content rather than actually producing the content. And this is an area I hope to improve on moving forward. I spend more time on the 5 questions than I initially anticipated, but looking at it in silently, I've spoken to over about 30 people, men and women across the continent and in the diaspora. But I don't think that's a bad thing because I have learned a lot, and I hope anyone is listening that you'll manage to pick 1 or 2 things. And again, this has taught me that I just need to set better expectations for myself and my time moving forward. If the other components move forward, if the other components needs to move forward, and the main reason I spent so much time on the 5 components was just the ease of setting up the 5 questions. There was less prep time, and especially on the interviewees part. What changed for me? Few things that are underestimated when I started this back in November 2024 with an anticipated launch in January. And the one thing was how difficult it would be to access well written source material for my research. And I don't mean your opinion pieces and blogs that may or may not be in the same space or cover the same things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there should be a space for everyone to speak out. It's just that I wanted my writing to be more academic, or academic adjacent, or following some type of academic principles with well researched methodologies and findings from people, not only researchers, who could defend their positions or finding if there was ever a need to do so. This was important to me, having my own research rooted in fact and not in opinion, therefore being able to draw an opinion based on fact or a well researched position. And I guess that's why I love the 5 questions component of this project, because I collect my own data in any way. Probably it'll be useful at some point. I also underestimated how deep the topic of African masculinities is when it comes to perspectives of African masculinities, both in written and electronic media. I found a wide spectrum of findings, opinions, hot takes, thoughts, conclusions on everything from love, family, religion, including spirituality, money, education, gender, including sexuality, relationships. And on more than one occasion, I've been in an interview or a call, and I've had to pause internally and just go to myself, like, huh, I never looked at this that way before. And so, whatever the take, whatever the side, or whatever perspective, it's still been a really, really good experience to learn. Lastly, I underestimated access to resources, be it material or people, when it comes to the type of research I wanted and still want to do. It's been a challenge finding access to the materials. As well, most well written text is either inexpensive and hard to come by books, while other well researched documents, text, journal, books are behind journal or media company paywalls. And also, as a new entrant into the discourse with no name behind me, it's very difficult to get people to respond to requests for interviews or discussions. And in two separate occasions, I've been told the reason for not collaborating because the other party felt I wanted to use their experience or I don't know clout or whatever for my own growth, which is not true absolutely, but I can see their perspective, and that's fine given today's social media and pop culture landscape. Has my focus shifted? Has the direction shifted? No, my focus has not shifted, and I still aim to complete my project within my parameters. What has changed is my aim to be more realistic with timelines and patient with myself when it comes to putting my research, including findings, general rantings, videos, and photos out there. I will not chase some arbitrary schedule that would push me and my other responsibilities to an unhealthy place. And as I said at the beginning, life happens. I've got other things to do that take up my time, so I'll aim for a balance whenever possible. My intent remains to dive as deep as I can on this topic without getting lost as to why I started this journey, why do I feel the way I do about certain things, and to share it for primarily the purpose of showing how my journey through this topic might help someone else out there, serve as a good idea, also serve as a good addition to the discourse out there, and simply as an interesting project that so far has given me so many new perspectives. The question, what is African masculinity? And for this, I'm more grateful than anyone can imagine. It's been a privilege so far. What comes next? Moving forward, I'm gonna try to introduce a visual aspect to the project, and what essentially means is more videos. And this is not the reason for me being a bit loose with my time frames, but simply acknowledging that in order to have balance, I need to space things out, and I can still release things when they're ready. And by adding video, it hopefully adds to the overall values and takes nothing away. I'll still like to keep the three main episodes, the the podcast itself, the 24 episodes, the five questions, and the in conversations. For the time being, I'm gonna keep the same format, and hopefully, I'll get some feedback, affirmation from the few people that the content resonates with. And again, the aim is not to seek or farm engagement, is just to, if this helps one person, yeah, that's it for me. I won't limit myself to safe topics or non controversial takes, but I do commit to sharing as factual information as possible. And where I do err, it's never going to be intentional. And I'm happy to sort of clarify if after I find my take maybe was misplaced. And now it's time to get back to the show and hear more from African voices about their perspective on African masculinities. I'm content to take time to showcase diverse voices. I'm not seeking a single narrative, but I hope to enrich myself with the knowledge and perspectives of my fellow Africans, both on the continent and in the diaspora, no matter who they are. Thank you.